Welcome to Breaking Initiative. Don't forget to like and subscribe on whatever you're listening to, on the YouTubes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever else. We're probably there. Find us. We're here to help. My name is Brett.
And I'm Rob. This is the show where we break down our own tips and tricks to help you get the most out of your tabletop games. We share some of our favorite tools from around the community, discuss our past experiences as well as new things currently happening in the hobby. And I have a surprise for you, Brett.
What's that, Rob?
We have done it. We have broken 100 subscribers on this low-effort channel that we're making here.
Sorry, my sample was waiting. I was waiting for you to finish your sentence.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember this, but once we get 100 subscribers, you're supposed to take the 100th subscriber out to dinner.
Yes.
Yep. His name is Jimmy Jackson. He lives in Walla Walla, Washington. I'll provide you the information after this video. So, yeah.
Wait, is that accurate?
Does this face?
Do you know that?
Does this face look like it'll lie?
Yes. I've been around this space for a long time. Yeah. It's hard, but it will lie. Yeah. No. Oh, man. I guess I'm going to Washington.
Yeah, don't worry about that yet. We got a video to record here. We're going to be recording.
Right, yeah, duh.
We got to...
Sorry, I just started... No, cut the dinner, guys. No, we're not doing it right now.
Yeah.
I know. Well, okay. I'll be there. Give me 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm going to be saying give me 5 minutes for the next half hour. Okay, go.
So I wanted us to talk about something that was a little more unusual, but it's not something I hear people talk about, which are always my favorite things to talk about, as far as D&D is concerned. In Dungeons and Dragons, really any tabletop game, especially fantasy tabletop games, as a DM, and honestly as a player, I find the same situation come up where players feel like the next thing they want to do is buy or acquire or train or capture and train some sort of pet. Usually it's like a cute animal, a ferocious animal that looks tameable, and they want to be like a hunter in World of Warcraft and just throw down the tame ability, and then now that's just they're magically their pet. And there's a lot to kind of reel in there because you don't want to let your players go completely nuts. And I mean, maybe that if that's the point of the campaign is just to capture animals like Pokemon or something, that's what your game will devolve into if you don't rein that stuff in.
Yeah. I feel like sometimes, Rob, it could be that a little bit of the World of Warcraft vibe. One of the first people the characters that I was a Beastmaster Ranger, and we can talk about how bad, but also still how much fun I had. But the appeal was like, I'm this lone guy, and I got me and my dog, me and my pet,
pretty much it.
And we can do our own thing. We don't need anybody. We're a 2-man crew, and that's kind of the we could survive on our own. We don't need anybody. That where I think is the appeal that comes from. But when reality hits in game, you're like, how do I just not get this thing to die? I just don't want this thing to die. Oh no, right. All my backstory is how long I had him, and he's my trusted friend. I'm level 10 now, and anything can kill this thing in one hit.
Yes, and so the Beastmaster is one of the only examples of a class ability, a rule written into the game in which you get a pet. You get a pet that does what you say. You get a pet. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. The DM doesn't get to say, put their finger and their thumb in the pie and change how it works. That is your mechanic in your game. I have a very simple solution I've never told you. Do you realize that every time you've been a Beastmaster Ranger with me, your pet has never died?
That's not true.
What? Oh, yeah, there was that time I killed it. But after that time that I killed your pet, has never happened.
I went through 3 or 4 pets.
Okay, but
what are you telling
so ever
me?
since that
I
last
went
time,
from a panther to a frog to
yes, I remember that now. Oh, that was funny when I killed them. But ever since that last time I killed one of your pets, whichever one that was, Fluffy or Stanky or whatever it was, I have never killed any of your pets. So you stole my steam with your truth and logic.
I just I was like, I felt like you were a parent and I was a kid and I was like, no, Dad, that's not true. And then you're just like, oh yeah, that's right.
But
what just happened?
My kid's 5. He gets a free ticket to Disney World. Okay, shut up, kid. You're 5. Yes, Dad.
This goldfish is really beautiful and colorful. It's a betta fish now. It's a Chinese fighting fish. No, but it's your same old fish. No, it's not, Dad. No, it's not.
Well, anyway,
oh my gosh.
I realize now I started applying this after you played with me, because I learned lessons. I learned lessons from.
This just hurts, Rob.
Here's the trick. Have you ever played Fable?
What?
Fable 2, the video game Fable 2.
Yes, I actually really like that game.
In that game,
I think it was your copy I played.
It probably was. And I won't even. Okay, I won't even. That's another video. There's a dog you get in the game. It's a central part of the game, and
yeah,
the Fable games are always they're very D&D-esque in their setting. So they're very great things to draw inspiration from, and they're very story-focused games. Your dog doesn't die. Why is that? Because they want it to die at the end for the dramatic effect. Spoiler alert.
Spoiler? Anybody who has an Xbox 360?
Yeah.
I think
the statute of limitations is up on that. So you have a dog, and whenever it gets hurt, it'll just start limping for a bit. It'll fall over and look like it's dead. And then it always just sort of slowly starts to recover. So you just ignore the rule where your pet dies as a Beastmaster hunter, and suddenly it's a lot cooler because it just loses its hit points, and through its sheer will of whatever cheesy thing you want to call it, love for your character, or its strife to go on and do your will and prove itself, it always succeeds on its death saving throws. And because I'm not a huge jerk, I'm not going to just hit it 3 times with 3 magic missiles that are unavoidable to kill it and make it lose its yeah. The terribly devious way to use magic missiles, which we could make a whole video on magic missiles. But your player that you've had for 10 levels is he has 3 saving throw. He's made two successful death saves. Okay, 4 magic missiles right at his body. He's dead. Done. But so I'm not going to do that to your dog or your pet spider or gator or whatever. I'm going to he would just always come back, and it would be dramatic. I wouldn't tell you that. I'd just do it. Whoops, I spoiled it for any player that's watching this that's ever going to be. But it's just not fun to let it die at the wrong moment. Instead...
Well, the thing is... Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, it only dies if it's a really dramatic moment in the arc of the story that would just...
wreck it.
Wreck the player. Otherwise, they're just not going to care about their pet because they're not expecting it to live.
Well, so here's the thing. It kind of is being fixed, and the way it has been worked now, where it's kind of like the Find Familiar. Basically, you cast it, you find it, it's there.
Yeah.
If it dies, it's okay. It the same one comes back. And so that is my wife decided to make a smoothie now all of a sudden. It's fine. Such a passive-aggressive sweetheart. It's better. It's better that it's because then it just adds to the mechanic. Because here's the problem with Man, you're right. We just wound up just going off on Beastmaster.
I knew it. I knew it was going to happen. I called it.
I know. The problem is like because it's its own mechanic to do its own thing, compared to like spiritual weapon from a cleric, where it's like clerics don't have a lot of bonus actions anyways, so that's easy. It's more palatable. With a wizard, they don't have a lot of bonus actions, so yeah, they get a find familiar, and that find familiar goes. So it's more palatable. Like with ranger, there was a few things that like, oh, I could do this, or I could move my panther 20 feet and then attack something, or actually just move it or attack as my bonus action. But my whole other bonus action is taken up, which was Hunter's Mark. Hunter's Mark was a bonus action. That's like the biggest thing with the ranger, and it's like but people flocked to the Beastmaster because of the trope of like having this is my companion, But I'm like, wait a minute, this is really flawed. But yet there's these other things that are just so much better. I'm like, well, ow.
And not to mention, which brings us as a nice sequitur into our next part. Let's say I'm not a ranger. I mean, hell, I'm not a ranger in real life. I've got 3 dogs. So
I just own animals, a well-trained animal.
Exactly. It's not some sort of like spiritual bond, like you've like imprinted your mind and will on it, and it's like your buddy or something. This is an animal that's trained to follow orders. You either buy it trained, you train it yourself. Some people want to go and they see a 6-legged crocodile, and they want that to be their pet, and so they try to capture it. This has happened twice, not necessarily with that animal, but this has happened twice. Somebody sees an interesting
That's
animal.
on you to have a 6-legged crocodile in both your campaigns. That's on you, Rob.
Well, it's very derivative of World of Warcraft back then. It was at the beginning of 5th edition. I ran out of monsters to surprise people with. Just ripped it straight out of World of Warcraft. Anyway, so there's this this trend I started to find where everybody is really interested in getting like a falcon or getting like a whatever or capturing an animal in the wild. Just like in real life, you can't just go find a grown-up like feral animal and just like stare at it and shout at it until it starts sitting and shaking your hand. Right? Can you imagine doing that to even a feral cat? Let alone like a crocodile or a T-Rex?
Cats are evil.
Yes.
Cats, you have to bring a sacrifice to them, and most of the time they want your blood.
I'm sorry, cat was a little extreme of an example. Let's settle for T-Rex.
Yeah. Yes.
Right.
Thank you for bringing that down.
Yes. So the point is, it's like that expectation I feel like needs to be set, or else they're going to go around capturing everything. If they don't have Pokeballs on their belt, that's not what this campaign's about.
Right.
So maybe a baby animal. Like, give them that option of something to invest in.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you killed that thing. They showed some interest. Maybe you could go find the nest of this animal, and you find one, and you raise it. It's a stupid animal because it has a 1 or 2 in intelligence. Really, the ones that have like a 3 in intelligence, there's a little secret rule that they don't spell out that's kind of carried over from 3rd and 4th edition. Intelligence 1, 2, and 3 creatures are non-sentient. Everything that's more than that is some sort of very tiny amount of sentience, and that's written into spells like that try to describe animals and beasts. It'll like the spells like communicate with animals or speak with animals. It always defines them as things that are intelligence 3 or less beasts, not just beasts, because there's some beasts like giant owls that like can actually talk and they speak giant owl of all things.
Right.
So since that's coded in there, a 3 is like a wolf, like a really smart, like a pig, like a dolphin is something that's really, maybe a dolphin's even more. I forgot. They actually added dolphin. I bet they actually.
I feel like a dolphin probably has higher intelligence.
Right, but I'll have to look that one up. Actually, that's one of the newer animals they've added. But the point is that like that kind of sets like a base idea of what you can train and what's going to just be like, okay, you kind of have to just be friends with this thing because it's like has a soul and it's sentient. You could you
Right.
can maybe, and this is where animal handling versus like persuasion comes in handy. That's really like the line I kind of cross. Once it's beyond that, you're like literally persuading it. Like, but animal handling, um, and a lot of dedication, multiple attempts over the course of many. Like this is a downtime activity, trying to get an animal trained up, or
Yeah.
you just buy one at the store for like 1,000 gold, great money dump, already trained. You get like this falcon that could go, hunt stuff, and you don't have to look for food anymore. Or you get like or like brings back things or helps you. Maybe just helps you fight. It could be a wolf, a trained mastiff that helps you fight. And those are ones you can still continue to do that earlier advice I was talking about. You just don't kill it until it's the right moment. Or just never do if you're a really nice guy, like a nice DM or something.
Rob, I got a question
Sure.
for you. So when I was a Beastmaster, there were, I feel like, easy ways to make this a little more palatable. And I think you're a guy that is strictly by the book.
I try to be.
And yet, that book, they literally changed. And we knew this. We knew that they were going to eventually change it. Rob, why didn't you let me come up with something as a Beastmaster that would accommodate and not totally break the game? I'm putting you on the spot. Because I think about that, and I'm like, Rob, why? Why, Rob?
There's a rule.
Tell me a good reason.
I have for myself that's not written in a book. That is, if I'm going to homebrew something, I have to fully understand why the rule I'm changing was there in the first place. If I don't, I am going to absolutely destroy the game by accident. Like, I will. It's like the butterfly effect. Somebody is obviously going to be encouraged to optimize themselves, and optimization encourages taking advantage of the rules. You come up with a new rule, breaks the game.
Listen, hey, we played at a table where I understand that. I can think of people and things to where, like, yes, I hear exactly what you're saying. What would you have done if I would have came to you and said, hey, the Beastmaster has to use up my bonus action to attack and or move? Can it just have its own turn? Which is not in the rules, it doesn't. What would you have done with that, Rob?
So here's why I was prefacing it with all of that. I wanted to change it, and I looked into why, and I realized if I changed it, it made the ranger go from suboptimal to OP, just like that. Because there's this thing called action economy, which I bring up pretty often in these videos, and you could dual wield and have your pet attack, and suddenly at level 1, you're getting 3 attacks that are like full powered attacks. It's like a wolf or like a big boar or like a black bear or something you're attacking with, and it's got things like pack tactics sometimes, or it's going to get advantage, and that like doubles like your chance of overturning the action economy by just having advantage, which is why advantage is so good. But having it all the time, it's really it would break the game to a point that everybody should be. If this gets to a point where everybody should do that rule that you come up with, you did something wrong. And I realized that if anybody did the math, like I took the time and did the math, but if anybody did the math and just allowed this pet that you always are promised to have to always do an extra attack, it's like having a third hand that can move around autonomously by itself and attack things far away and pick up things and do things for you. Which in the early game, which is my favorite part of the game, level 1 to 6, that's when it would be the most game breaking. So I try to find ways to subvert that by saying you can give up one of your attacks. It doesn't necessarily say this, but dual wielding, you could just use it. Like, it doesn't say you can do this, but I would allow you to use one of your attacks that you would dual wield with against it, as if your pet was the other one, and positioning it using the optional flanking rules, giving you advantage every single turn. It gives you a huge advantage. You basically have somebody who you bring a flanking machine with you.
Until it dies.
Until it,
especially in the early campaign, that was the problem early. As we started leveling up, was like I didn't want to get it into position because I was like, well, this is fluffy.
I never attacked it directly.
I don't want them to die again.
The AOE crap. That's what always got them.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I was accidentally an a-hole to you, and I'm sorry.
Hey, it was still a lot of fun. Yeah. We had another ranger in the group who was a monster hunter. Is that what it is?
It's not monster hunter. It's
not a monster hunter. Big monster attacker.
Yeah,
guy.
So many
he got extra damage on like certain big monsters or monstrosities or something like that. I don't know. And I always felt slightly subpar to him. I felt not quite as good because he had a couple extra things. But it still was tons of fun because I actually wound up getting a pet dragon at one point, which Rob had no control over because like it was like, oh, Rob can't DM tonight. Huh?
It was sort of like a one-shot diversion that.
It was still the same campaign, but I was like, oh, hey, everything is happening over here, guys. You're gonna come over. You're going to Dreamland, and I wound up just rolling really high, persuading pretty much what we're talking about. A full-on dragon, but the dragon was enslaved, so I befriended it, and it had something to befriend me for. It was good, and then at the end of the whole campaign, it was great. Like the dragon came back because I woke up from the dream, and the dream was gone.
I definitely made that go away. So yeah, I let one mission go where I'm not DMing, and suddenly everyone throws all my pet restrainment, like careful planning out the. Yeah, you could train that dragon. I don't care. It's sentient. It loves you. You rolled well. You got a 20 on your roll.
I didn't train it. I befriended it. It was different, Rob. I freed it from it being captured.
Right, yeah.
You know, so. But it was good. It was still really good.
But that's combining all of this knowledge together, you get a Beastmaster. They're balanced. It's almost like you're splitting some of the skills between them. One person gets an animal that's just as good. They're that entire class plus an animal. That's why a lot of people kind of shrug at Beastmaster, is because Beastmaster gets it and gets all these abilities that have to do with their beast. Everyone else can just go buy a beast that will also die when it it's just they're paying gold. I guess you're paying gold still to get your other creature back too, so kind of all the same thing, except a little suboptimal when you look at it from that angle. The classic D&D style where you can just go buy something if you need it, like an animal, a trained mastiff or wolf or something.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and of course you could just be a druid and just summon all your friends. There you go.
Exactly. And then you don't have to get attached to them. You can allow them to die and take up hits, and then
they're not even dying. They're just going back home. They just poof back to whatever.
You sleep at night by telling yourself that they were just fake and they didn't really have lives and families back home from where they were summoned.
They were just employees clocking in and clocking out for 18 seconds because the average average fight is 18. Oh, I got hit with the sword. I'm going back to my mom. Bye. Tell your kids I said hello. Okay.
Definitely.
See you next time we're summoned. All right. See you next time.
That just like naming all the creatures you summon. Like it's always the same one.
Yes.
That'd be funny.
And I bring forth this bunny. Hey, Tom, how you doing? Cool. Go attack them. All right. Oh, you died. Bye. Yeah. Say hello to your 1,000 kids because you're a bunny rabbit. Anyways, Robert, you good? Did we get enough of our animal things out?
I think so.
Definitely
I think so. Yeah, just as long as everyone remembers to just, it's definitely a fun thing. Definitely add it if somebody seems encouraged to kind of pursue that sort of thing in the game. It seems to come up all the time in my games. I don't know about yours. And just be careful about overdoing it because you can get overwhelmed and ruin your game. And basically...
Well, and that is the thing, too. Even with, like, Find Familiar, they're still, like, okay, it's advantage, but they can't even attack. Or in kind of the same vibe as, like, the weapon, the cleric one. What did I say? I said it earlier.
Cleric?
Spiritual weapon.
Right.
Yeah, like they can't give advantage, but they can attack, right? It's not an animal, but it can work the same way. You're putting it in a strategic location. It moves outside of the cleric's turn per se, and so yeah, I get what you're saying. You got to really watch out with action economy. And I mean, the easy thing that I would just say to do is like, well, if somebody has that, all right, cool, I'm beefing up the enemies. If I want to make it harder, I'm going to make it harder. But that takes more work. So I definitely can understand the idea of like, can we just play by the rules? This is what you want to do. Feel free to optimize as much as you want to, but the goal is having fun. And animals are fun.
Animals are fun.
So,
good note to leave off on.
all right. Yeah. Okay. We'll see you guys on the next one.
See ya.